Hey there, it's Andre, the Impulsive Thinker. Today I have Dan Rogers from Intentional Sidekick. He's the producer of the Beats Working podcast, which has the mission to redeem work, the word, the place, and the way. Dan joins us today to talk about vision bombing. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Andre.
Um, we were in a workshop one day, and then you came out with this term, vision bombing. I got to stop doing it when I realized I was doing it. And I said, right when you said it, it went click, click. I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what it was doing to the team. But I really liked the fact how you brought it up and just said, hey, this is a problem and it's okay. And I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah.
What did you mean by vision bombing?
Yeah. Uh, so I have uh, several companies, and sort of the main business, the one that sort of put us on the map, is a specialized shipping company. And it was really there where I learned it. I would go off to, I would either read a book. This is back in the day before podcasts exist. I'd go to a seminar, I'd go to a conference, I'd have a good conversation with a friend. Like an idea would pop up. And the second that I had the idea, I came back and just dropped the bomb on the rest of the team. Like, this is what we're going to do. And so I did that much longer than I care to admit. But I was working with a coach, and he said to me, he said, Dan, um, you don't have to vision bomb. Like, we could actually, we could just sort of plan these out and
Yeah.
see if we want to actually do all of them. So a guy named Phil Christensen is the guy that passed the term on to me. And somehow the word vision bomb, or the words, I'm not sure if it's a word or two words, but that sort of visual really helped me avoid doing it in the future. And it also, it made it, it's a fun visual. It didn't make me a bad guy. It didn't make them slow or, inflexible or anything like that. So yeah, it sort of put it in the right context.
Yeah, and what I found, like, it's not necessarily new ideas, or is new ideas going forward. I want to do it, not well thought out.
Mhm.
But this is what I'm planning to do. These are things I learned.
Mhm.
This is very great for everyone. And so it's different types of vision bombing, either vision of the company or something you learn, or a lot of great ideas that we're sharing all the time and openly. And I don't know about you, but to me, it was like, I just learned something new, guys, and I just wanted to share.
Yeah. So one thing that we did, that sort of helped scratch that itch, is we have a thing called Team Learn. We do
Mhm.
it. So we have a handful of businesses, but we do these things usually collectively, or we do them across the companies. And I'm not always the one leading it. It's an opt-in thing. So if people want to share their learning, they can.
Mhm.
And then it's totally different, right? Because then you can get super excited about it, you can get super passionate about it, but everyone understands, it's like, oh, we're just coming to like check this out. Like, we're not actually going to necessarily
Right.
I don't have to
Yeah.
take any action behind. I don't have to do anything. And I found that was a really effective way for me to see how much I really liked the idea,
Mhm.
right?
You're bouncing it off.
Strategic coach has an impact filter, which is great. I felt the Team Learn is better for me because it makes me really flesh out what I'm excited about. And then in that, it either becomes, relevant and useful to one of the businesses, or it doesn't, right? It's like, oh, this is just interesting for me, and I'll salt it away for myself, but it actually doesn't really bring a lot of impact to any of the businesses.
Right. And so it didn't bring an impact a lot of the businesses. Why? When we're vision bombing, why does it have, how does it affect your team and potentially the production?
So what I have to remind myself continually, and this is not cool, but it's just how it is. So what I have to remind myself continually is that other people are involved,
Mhm.
and they can't read my mind. They haven't lived my life. They have no idea what all the connections are that I'm not stating.
Yeah.
And so they're just like, whoa, this is somewhat interesting, but I don't even know like what we're talking about or where it fits in. And like, is this going to be on the test? Right.
Right. Exactly. It's a
Yeah. And
change,
yeah.
a
Absolutely. So,
potential change with no direction.
yeah. And as a verbal processor,
Yeah.
that that can be really dangerous, because because I have no problem just throwing them away at the end, but then they're like, well, am I supposed to keep this or not? So for me, it was really just what are some constructive behaviors that can let me run with it,
Mhm.
but sort of minimize the damage right of that. Yeah. Because
Yeah, and what I discovered with my group, it was the more I vision bomb or I shared new thoughts, they thought this was a new direction and it wasn't well planned and there's no plan.
Mhm.
So now there's a change coming. And then, every quarter, every month, there's a new change, a new change, a new change. Then almost become scared of it because what's going to be new this time
Yeah.
is what's big impact on mine. And if we have, if you have follow throughs in your team, they'll run with it. Even though there's no plan, they're just, hey, this is the new thing. Okay, fine, we'll run with it. And they don't know where they're going. It just causes confusion.
Yeah, no, we like I said, uh the the term was, so we worked with Phil for a while at P2P. He actually passed on that term, and he facilitated something else that I was a part of, and that's actually where I picked it up from him.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the reason why we worked with him as a coach later on as a company. But uh the meeting cadence, whether you run EOS or scaling up or whatever, however you're running the business, the meeting cadence should allow for a nice sort of, hey, this is the plan. This is how we're going to modify the plan based on confronting reality and all that good stuff. And so it's really dropping vision bombs in between that what I was doing. Because if you drop it in at the right meeting cadence, that's okay, because that's part of what's supposed to happen. It's dropping them in between. And for us, that was usually dropping them in the middle of the quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or the middle of the meeting, or the middle of
Or
the
whenever
block.
it came to mind.
Exactly. So yeah, so like I said, it was sort of just building the rest of the system that needed to be so it could get processed in a way that was really only positive. Right.
And how much of your vision bombing were you doing that actually were implemented or was implementable
Oh
versus just
God.
an idea? Like you said, we're verbal processes, which I think is a good word. Like I think visionary entrepreneurs, I think we need to be verbal processors. And that's why it's a problem because we have to talk out loud to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I will say is uh we have always been a very, very agile team. It's just part of our worldview. And so we implemented a lot, actually. We
Mhm.
learn very quickly, we iterate very quickly. It just wasn't necessary, right?
Well, that's okay. It wasn't
Yeah, yeah,
necessary. That's
yeah,
it's a better framing of the question.
yeah.
Yeah, yes, you implemented those great. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, we implemented everything, but a lot of it was not
Not
necessary.
everything, to be clear, but yeah, no,
Yeah,
but a lot. And this is
but
the
that's a
reason.
differentiator right there. Not necessary.
Yeah, and the thing that the learning that I had as a leader, and the reason why vision bombing is such a term dear to my heart, is it's like it was wasted kcals,
Mm-hmm.
because had we just implemented through system, we would have, I mean, in some cases, we probably would have saved 80% of the energy,
Yeah.
but but that's where, I mean, I wasted effort of the team, right? Like
Right. Right.
there was major tax on it. Um, and then there was times where they were just bad and epic fails and all that other stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and so yeah, that was
So I
just trying.
think that's a great point to say about your team. Is the epic fails in that, but that wasn't their fault.
Oh God, no,
No,
no, it was
no, that's not
despite
their
the team
fault if
that
they don't
failed.
have an idea how
Yeah,
to implement a
yeah,
vision that just came out of your mind. You didn't
yeah.
connect the dots for them at all. You're supposed to
Oh
read their
yeah,
mind,
yeah,
peeps. Like, come
yeah.
on.
Yeah, that tells you how bad the idea was, is despite my team, it still failed.
Yeah.
And I'm not being cute. Like, I mean, yeah, there's a part that I bring, and it's not the implementation piece. And so the folks around me are incredible in that. And so, no, it's not being cute. It's not being false humility. That's just reality. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, no,
So let me ask you. So why do you think we vision bomb? Okay, we kind of touched about a bit about being verbal processors, but why do we do it as a visionary entrepreneur? This vision bombing. What do you think is like? It's
so
an important part of us. I
yeah.
think.
So I'm blessed to also couple all that with a quick start. So, I mean, I like figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that that's it. My bet is though, is even folks um that are not quick starts, they might, maybe they just do it all on paper or keyboards or something like that. But if they're verbal processors, I think it's developing a relationship or relationships with people who will allow you to think out loud and all that. And another device that was given to me by a different coach, this is a game changer. I've been fortunate. I've had the same work spouse for 19 years, and she uses it on me more than I use it on her. She's pretty intuitive. She usually knows where I'm at. But so the device is called using the dial, and
Hmm.
so it's just an acronym. So D is discuss. I need to discuss something with you. I is I need some input. A is I need an answer, and L, and that's the one that she uses the most. Big surprise. I need you to listen.
Hmm.
And so um knowing what I want out of the conversation with that person is not only incredibly respectful to them, it's respectful to me. And so I did most of my verbal processing with her, and we would sort of just ferret through like what is a good idea. And then the cool thing,
Right.
because of the role that she played, then she already intuitively had a really good idea. Oh, hey, and occasionally we did fold stuff in earlier, but it was through if you want to talk EOS language, it was through the integrator role, um,
Hmm.
not through the vision bomb, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I think that's a really great point that you have there. Like, because what I usually start off is I need a sounding board. A lot of
Yeah,
times, the vision bombing is actually more about just like for quick starts, one thing, ADHD brains, that's the other thing too. We need to talk it out loud so our brain can process it through our ears. That's an ADHD brain thing. Quick
mhm,
starts just need to talk out loud, period. That's just what they do. Um, but like the people in the receiving end, I like the dial, discuss, input, answer, listen. I
mhm,
had to start telling people, I just need a sounding board. Basically, I
mhm.
just need a physical body there. You don't have to say anything.
Yep, yep,
But if you have the right person there, like I just wrote down a note here, allow you to vision bomb, but in a controlled environment
mhm,
where it won't affect your team. It's a safe space, to use the
mhm,
term.
yeah,
So like you have your partner, you're saying you can just bomb away.
mhm,
They'll just listen. And what I found is if I got the right person that can not talk back, but we have a discussion about the
yep,
ideas, then we can actually start. Yeah, okay, maybe that's not a good idea, or maybe we can wait a year, or maybe we need
mhm.
this first. And that's where the talking out part. But at least they know it's not going anywhere, and we're just having a discussion.
Yeah, and she actually frequently uses the term rehearsing.
Hmm.
I'm
Oh, nice.
rehearsing the idea. Yeah, just rehearsing. And so we don't I mean we don't use this language in every single conversation, but frequently we'll leverage it just to make sure, are we in the same spot. And so I'm not even sure we're using it correctly, but we use a little bit of sort of like the stage theatrical sort of concept. So it's like,
Hmm.
hey, we're just in blocking out the script, right? You
Yeah.
know, hey, this is dress rehearsal, right? Like we're getting way close, and
Mhm.
it just gives us an idea of like where we think we are in the clarity of the concept or the idea or whatever it is that we're doing.
Yeah, like for me, I think it's very important that as visionary entrepreneurs, we need to vision bomb. We
Hmm.
need to have a place that we can do it, and doing it alone doesn't work.
Hmm.
Like even for the listeners listening, like the ADHD brain, it's painful to be alone to come up with these things because if it's internally in our brain, we can't make sense of it. That's why I just tell people talk out loud because it's got to come out into the sound waves, into the ear. Then all of a sudden the brain's like, oh my god, here we go. This makes sense. And to do it with the right people, to get some of that feedback to me was important to say, well, that's a ridiculous idea, or that's a great idea, but it's going to be $1 million,
Yeah, or
right?
the part that has been there's been plenty of that for sure, but what's been really invaluable and the part that I think with the right partner or partners is they help me clarify my thinking. they're,
Exactly.
they're like, hey, that didn't make sense. And you know, you and I know each other a little bit, obviously. I mean, I jump and I don't always communicate that
No,
we just went 4 magnitude scale up.
head down, ass up. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, and every once in a blue moon, it's not actually connected. I mean,
Right.
you know, you're like,
Right.
oh, whoops, that I misconnected that. And so I think that's the other part too, is it just the clarifying of the thinking is it just, yeah, very, very, very helpful. Very
But the
helpful.
thing is, the clarifying of the thinking, we take it as clarifying of our thinking, but what it's actually happening is we're helping them develop the process and the
Hmm.
understanding to execute it.
Hmm.
Because like as a visionary, like I was talking with Brian Scudamore there, he was saying, you know, be king of the vision. That's his job. And I just love that term. If all I do is I'm the vision, that means I'm not executing the vision. I'm not recurring the vision.
Hmm.
So we have no skills to execute. Like, yes, we did at the beginning, you know, when you're a startup, yeah, you do all that stuff. But, you know, when I look back, like, it was poorly done. It was done
Hmm.
successfully
Hmm.
enough to make money and to bring on a team. But man, does the team do way better than me?
Hmm.
So if we're not executing, we're not good executors. We're not good people to make it recur. So staying in that role as the visionary, getting the people to like, I like your term, to rehearse the idea so we can clarify the thinking,
Hmm.
actually is creating the system for them to make it happen and then stay out of it. That's my problem right now. I can't stay out of it. I got to get out of that habit.
Yeah, and when I say clarify my thinking, I mean I bring everything back to 3 dimensions, and so if I can't tie it back there, we got to throw it away. Or I mean I got to at least put it on the shelf and pull it off later. And so that's then once we know how it connects, then we can just sort of buckle it on to the rest of the
Right.
system. Yeah.
But like a lot of times our vision is actually the end result.
Hmm.
It's not the beginning. It's not how we're going to get there. It's just, this is what I want to see. It's like the picture on the puzzle box.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it is. Now
yeah,
someone else has got to put the pieces together.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's and so it's
So
just
yeah. And then with you, Dan, like I know you quite well now, but we've talked a lot and your energy is stupendous. Like it's up there. All right. You get excited
yeah.
and you bring an intensity to the vision bombing. It's almost to
Yes.
the point sometimes it's a carpet bombing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and and then the other thing too for the listeners, like you know, the ADHD brain, especially the hyperactive ones, we bring a massive intensity to everything we do, and that's actually so we come in and we're very
But
excited about
only
a
when
new
we're
idea.
awake. Only
Only
when we're
when
awake.
we're awake. I don't know. Yeah. So when we get excited and you show up to your team, they're actually dealing with a like a hurricane of bombing here, and we don't realize that we got this intensity and excitement that it scares the shit out of people.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, one of the things that we do is so we are a systems company. That's really more what we are. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we do a bunch of different things, but we have a system, we have a process, and we just apply it in a bunch of different places. And so uh the the customer journey for us of onboarding an employee uh is scripted till the time they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And the first day that they're with us, at usually at lunch, sometimes it's a little different, but usually at lunch, either with their team or the entire org, depending on where they are, we'll do how to work with me.
Right.
And they've been prepped, you know. We have a template for it, and it talks about Colby scores and all that other stuff. And it's a really, really great time. And so when I when I share mine, I sort of share with people, it's like, look, when to be terrified of me is when I am reading a piece of paper or very, very sedate.
Right.
uh because that means we have a serious
Yeah.
challenge, and I am at my place of I need to stay exactly where I'm at. I said, but when I'm animated and everything else, it just means we're on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're going, like, and I'm in the pursuit of the next vision, of the next version of next, and trying to get closer to right. And I'll contradict myself in that just because that's
Yeah.
the pursuit. And so then they get to experience it. And yeah, no, and I think calling that out ahead of time, and yeah, and
I think it's very important that people understand how to deal with you, because I get the same thing. If I got my game face on,
mm,
it's something's going on, no time, don't interrupt, or with piddly stuff.
mhm.
It's yeah, I get all the time, like when, especially when I'm organizing big events, I'm having a good time. I just doesn't
Mhm.
see it on my face because it's game face time. I'm getting prepared for things to come out from nowhere all the time. So being
Yeah, and
understanding, and that's good.
yeah, and just to clarify a little bit, so like I'll give you an idea. So when we were visioning the podcast, like
Right.
when I was trying to share that vision with the broader team and the host and
That
everything
the Beats
else.
Working podcast you're
Yeah,
referring
yeah,
to. I'll have the
absolutely.
link in the show notes because it's a really good podcast.
Yeah, thank you for that. So Mark, our host, he had he we we were now all sort of collectively together as a team, and he was giving examples of guests, and I'm not going to use any names because we'd have to get into the whole vision to sort of, to not like slam anybody, but really the metaphor finally said to him was, I was like, look, those are appetizers, and the vision that I'm trying to get to you is the entire restaurant.
Right. Yep. I like that.
So like on an appetizer level, absolutely, but fully understand that what we're trying to do here is significantly larger than just that appetizer. Like we're trying to have a world-class restaurant.
Yeah.
And I said, so, and because there was a lot of passion, and not in a good way. It was a really great discussion. There's, I don't know, I have to count heads, but I think there's 6 or 7 people in the meeting. We did it for about 2.5 hours. We probably should have taken a break, but we didn't. And then
That's another thing.
yeah,
Visionary. Yeah.
but we were all there. Everyone, no one tapped out. Everyone was in it. And then we moved on. And then the next day, about mid-morning, pulled everyone together and said, look, because we're frequently not all in the same room, and so we had limited time where we we're all going to be in the same room
Mhm.
physically. And so I said, look, we've got limited time. I felt like everyone really battled. I felt like we had really great engagement. I don't necessarily want to go back there if folks don't, but like, how do we best want to use our time? And to the credit of the team, and I was like humbled that they all were like, no, we want to go back. And
Right.
and so I think between us understanding how we all show up a little differently, and then really striving
Well, that's
to
good because you allowed them to bring their skills to the table to share in your vision, and you just worked the vision.
yeah, I wanted it to become our vision, right? And so what ended up happening was I said, look, I feel like you've heard what my
Mhm.
vision is. That
Yeah.
I just wanted that to get a fair day in court. Now we need to have our vision.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to, right? And so then and we drilled in on that, and yeah, it's we're still it's not fully visible. There's more
Mhm.
layers to be revealed as we go, but
Well, a
really
vision will
stoked.
always improve
Yeah,
itself as it goes.
yeah,
And I think this is a really great ending to this episode. Unfortunately, we could talk about this forever.
yep.
Is actually what you just described from the beginning of the podcast to just now was you progressing as a visionary, from vision bombing to sharing your vision to making it our vision.
Mhm.
So I think that's a great a growth cycle for visionaries. And like we are talking about, it's necessary for us to vision bomb because we're verbal processors, and I think all visionary entrepreneurs are that way. And with the ADHD brain, we need to talk out loud to someone so we can hear it ourselves and it gets processed better. Um, and I like what you said earlier, allow you to vision bomb in a controlled environment, because what you learned was even though the visions were implemented, some were not necessary. And we got to work that out in a controlled environment. So,
And we burned too much energy. It was
right, wasted
bad use.
energy.
It was disrespectful of the team, quite
Yeah.
frankly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great point. Any final thoughts about this vision bombing, Dan? And where can people find you?
So I am a recovering vision bomber. I hope. I don't know what my
Grown.
date is, but yeah, I'm celebrating it. They can find me on LinkedIn or Intentional Sidekick or workp2p.com. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have that in the show notes too. And thank you, Dan, for joining us today. And like you, for the listeners, be careful of carpet vision bombing with our intensity. Be careful of who you do it with. Find yourself a sounding board so that you can rehearse the idea and that you can get your thinking clarified. Thanks again, Dan, and thank you to the listeners. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Andre.